He's not the Adam Goods that we knew probably 100 games ago, but he's in such a dominant side that he can float forward, and someone's got to pick him up. If you give him half a second gap, he's going to kick goals on you. Superstar, very impressive team, and yeah, regardless, this is one of the most impressive teams of any sport in the country.
Yep. We're the champs. We are top. 1, 2, 3.
So there we go, the Sydney Swans into the grand final. They have got the 7-day, well, make it 8-day break, 7.5-day break to get themselves ready, fly down to Melbourne next week and have a go at winning another grand final. Tremendous performance by the Swans tonight. As I said, emphatic in victory. A record score in a final for the Swans, their biggest win in a final and into a fourth grand final in the last 10 years. A great performance and well done to all concerned. Andrew Ireland, we saw shaking hands there with Adam Goods, the Chief Executive Officer. And as I said, a tremendous coaching performance from John Longmire. Sellers, you loved it, didn't you? Just their patterns, the way they played out the game, the way they set themselves up, and they're in great, just in absolute ripping nick going into this grand final.
I really like Rampy too, down back. I thought he did a really good job. Gary Rowan was the best game I've seen him play, Rowan. So they've got good pace, good young kids around the place. Parker's, he's just a star. He is, don't worry about where he is. He should be in the All-Australian. He probably, look at that game tonight, he was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So, you know, they've got a lot of talent and high-end talent.
A little bit of ice for Reid on the knee and Grundy on the ankle, but we'll get more from John Ralph in a few moments' time. In the meantime, let's go into the war room now and dissect this preliminary final from a Roos point of view from David King and from a Swans point of view from Gerard Healy. Congratulations, Gerard, your old team are into another grand final.
Yeah, it was an emphatic performance. They go in absolutely prepared. Small question mark on Sam Reid, as Sellers suggested, but they've unearthed so much talent over the last 3 or 4 years. 3 players come up from Hawthorn and they're every chance to be fighting their old club out for the flag. That's to be played out tomorrow, of course. But you mentioned Luke Power. He may not... Luke Parker, I should say. He wasn't in the All-Australian side. He may win the Brownlow on Monday night. He's that sort of player. He might just be the smoky that comes up. But the Kangaroos, Kingy, you'd be proud of the effort of the Kangaroos. They ran out of juice. They probably played their grand final last week, but it was a step up for the Kangaroo.
Oh, I think it shows the gap in class between those two sides. The extra week of football at this stage of the year is a factor. I've got no doubt about that. It's been a fantastic journey, and we'll talk about that later on. I think you've got to recognise what John Longmire's done from a coaching and a strategy point of view in the off-season. He recognised that attack was going to be the point of difference this year. Hawthorn, Port Adelaide, even Fremantle looking to score more. A top 4 attack this year. Still maintained the best defensive rating for the year in terms of points against. So he didn't give up a lot defensively, but their gains in terms of the way they can score. We know the talent down there, but he pushed it all in the forward half. Jack, McVeigh, these sorts of players, Hanbury, spend time in the forward half, not across half-back like they did last year. So I think all credit has to go to John Longmire tonight.
Yep, as we said, an amazing performance all through the year to get them going. Early on, they're a little bit slower to the blocks, but then they've been a dominant force right throughout the season. Early on, North Melbourne were pretty good in the first 10 minutes. Brown kicked this goal after 8 minutes. They were in front and they led for 7 minutes for the match until this man in his 350th game, Adam Goods, put them in front, the Swans, by 2 points at the 15-minute mark, and that was the last time that North Melbourne even looked like being in front. Tippett took one in the square from a Buddy Franklin kick, and then Buddy went up the other end and got one himself and put it through. And at quarter time, it was the Swans by 21 points.
And the second term picked up from where they left off in the first quarter, and it was Nick Malcheski drove the ball in long, and there was Parker who converted that opportunity. Rampy along to Kieran Jack, not often at the top of the or in the forward 50 taking contested grabs, but he did on that occasion. Then this one, Luke Parker. What a hang just before half-time, goes back and slots in a very nice goal.
And in the third quarter, it was still very much all about the Swans and this man here, Buddy Franklin. He was just a colossus all night. Just presented, was so dangerous in the way he went about his game. Was a key focus for him all day. Petrie joined in for periods through the second half, but was relatively quiet throughout the match. Harvey was able to join in for little periods of the game, but unfortunately it wasn't enough throughout the entirety of the game. Went back just to be able to balance the scoreboard a little bit. But then it's Tippett. Again, the tools were just too much trouble for them. It was the Swans by 52.
Game was in hand by this stage. Really running through the ground is young Rampy. Rampy straight to Buddy. Buddy in front, just pushes his player out of the way. Just killed Thompson tonight. Then you got Parker's goal from the boundary line. This kid can do it all. And then there's a Tippett mark in the square. Just too strong for all the players up there. The tall 71-point victory, and they just congratulate each other on their way to the MCG next week.
That's it. It's a night of highlights, and well done to that man, Adam Goods. 350 games, 2 Brownlows, 2 premierships. He can make it 3 next Saturday, the Australian of the Year, and what a leader he has been, not only for Indigenous Australia, but for the Sydney Swans. There's the score, 136-65, a 71-point victory. The last time we spoke was at halftime. They led by 36 points, so close as you can get to doubling your score or doubling your lead in the second half. It was a tour de force by the Sydney Swans, as I said, basically from the 15-minute mark of the first term when it clicked together. They withheld everything that the Kangaroos were able to throw at them at that stage, and then they just pounded the Kangas off the park, and they're on the way to the MCG. And this man is the man. He was on fire tonight. Buddy Franklin.
Keep standing up on big occasions, and this is a lot of Hawthorn fans starting to get pretty worried. Obviously, they've got a big game tomorrow, but this man was so dominant, and we know he was taking these very strong contested marks in the forward 50, but he also got up the ground as well. His metres gained for the night was basically 500 metres. That's unheard of for a man that plays in the forward 50, but he runs so far, converts his opportunities, and he just looks so fit, so confident, and so in tune with his teammates as well. And they obviously respect him.
Scotty Thompson's an all-Australian fullback.
Yep.
Just looked like a little schoolboy, didn't he? Yeah. Seriously, it's amazing what he can do, this kid. He's a freak.
And we do get concerned, and we highlighted before the game about how much they go to him, but it doesn't matter.
Why wouldn't you?
He is so good at what he does that he can finish off the work. He has kicks 5-2, he has 11 marks, 23 disposals. So to be able to have that as a key forward, as you said, Lynchy, get up the ground, then also do his damage back inside 50. That's the package.
Their ability tonight to separate the defence was incredible.
That's
very,
right.
very good. They separated them and they isolated, and they were in big trouble.
Mark, the way that they were able to get at various stages Tippett into the ruck, Buddy up the ground, bringing the ball in. As I mentioned, 3 of Tippett's goals came from 50-metre kicks into the goal square to a one-on-one from Buddy Franklin.
They sure did, and Parker snuck down too, who's a non-baller who rests up forward sometimes as well. So they got good variety in what they do, and the ball goes forward.
Great,
Let's have a look at Tippett in action. Well, we tipped this. It was the Bondi Builders. Here's the kick from Buddy. That's gone every bit of 60 metres, that one.
Well, it was a great kick to advantage, and that's what you need. And certainly Kurt got off to a sluggish start. He dropped the mark on the lead, then dropped a diving chest mark, but he still kept working. But it was the service. I mean, it's really hard to muck those up when you're getting lace-out work, and especially the long ones over the back. See, Grimer was totally out of position there, so Tippett obviously took a very easy mark. So his confidence was up, and no one in the air. By this stage of the game, the North defenders were just mentally destroyed.
He's 6'6", you know. He's not a midget, he's a monster.
He's 201 centimetres, 110 kilos, and actually moves well.
I would have loved to have got a stopwatch from the time they turned the ball over to the time they got it to 15 metres out from goal, because it went so fast. There was just no way that North defenders could get back there to be able to support either Tippett's opponent, teammate, or also Franklin's, because the ball was just so quick the way that it got there.
Well, they kicked it 11 from turnovers with that quick ball movement. So 22 scoring shots from turnovers, a lot of it from deep defence as well, to 1 goal 6. Now, North Melbourne averaged 53 points every week from turnovers. They just didn't have the ability to run against this manic defence from Sydney. 41
points off their average. All right, let's go to the Sydney Swans rooms now. As we said, a record score in a final, a biggest win in a final. They've got the Australian of the Year. On Monday night, they could well have this man with a Brownlow around his neck as well. Josh Kennedy, congratulations. The first big tick as you're into the grand final, and it was a magnificent display tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Obviously, really exciting down here, and great feeling to be into our second grand final in 3 years.
Congratulations on your performance, especially that first quarter was outstanding. Tell us a little bit about Luke Parker. We sit here in the studio and from afar in the grandstand and just are amazed at this young man, the way he plays. Tell us a little bit about him and how he goes about it.
Oh, I mean, there's not many tricks. He's hard as nails, and you know, I think he's just grown in confidence this year, and he's been able to, you know, push forward, really impact the scoreboard, and he's he's one of our better players, and the last month probably our best player. So he's having a tremendous season.
What was the midfield focus coming in for this game? Because it just looks like you had so much pressure around the ball, and then once the ball come loose, it was just the quick hands, get the exit, fast ball movement down the other end.
Oh, look, we knew that they had a really good mix of inside and outside mids, and we just wanted to sort of stick to our processes and try and put as much pressure on them as we could. And that was really it. We didn't change too much, but we value our pressure and that hard contested footy, and fortunately we were able to do that, especially early.
Josh, Rampy, Cunningham, they were just sensational tonight. And also Rowan, fantastic. It's the best game I've seen him play.
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic. Those guys, their opportunity to play in their first grand final next week. So, fortunately, we've got a few guys that have been there before, but it's a really exciting time for everyone at the club, especially those guys.
And you're going to cause nightmares for your granddad and your father again, Josh. Not that you care.
Nah, well, who knows? We'll watch the game tomorrow and see what happens. And if it is that way, then so be it. And deja vu. But just happy to be in it, really.
And Josh, just for you and the guys who are coming down to the Brownlow, will you come down to Melbourne or will you stay in Sydney? Has that been worked out yet?
Yeah, no, same as 2 years ago. We'll stay up in Sydney. I think we'll have something on at the SCG. It was pretty. It's nothing like down in Melbourne, but much prefer to be up there than down there.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Get yourself right. You were fantastic again tonight. I think, was it 9 handballs, 10 handballs in the first quarter, or something? You were just sensational. Got the game off to a flyer and just dominated. And good luck for the week. Enjoy it as best you can, mate. You deserve all the success that you've achieved this year, and good luck next week.
Thanks very much, Eddie. Thanks,
good on
guys.
you, mate. Josh Kennedy, one of the stars of the AFL.
Superstar. And how good a feeling is it to sit back and watch your opponent just build each other tomorrow, knowing you're in there and you've got an extra day's break. It's fantastic.
All right, boys, let's go to Johnny Ralph and get the news from tonight's preliminary final and everything else that's been going on. Ralph in the newsroom, what do you got, mate?
And almost a perfect preparation for the Sydney Swans. No match review panel issues, no real selection quandaries, and the only real hint of an injury to Sam Reid. Now, we'll show you this incident where he basically had an innocuous marking collision, and he did come down and was quickly subbed off in the third quarter. Now, it didn't look terrible, but certainly had some ice on that lateral ligament there. It was taken off, but by the end of the game, he certainly was packed up with what seemed 3 or 4 bags of ice. So he'll be in the club all night having scans on that tomorrow morning after icing it all night. Maybe the beautiful Bondi waters might help as well. And so until he actually runs and trains earlier in the week, I don't think we can give him that tick of approval. But boys, I think that'd be the only real concern. The other one was a ankle twist there from Grundy, but again, he didn't even leave the ground, and I think he'll be absolutely cherry ripe. Here's Grundy as well. Just got trapped there as he went to toe the ball. But look, not a care in the world for him, as I say. Will take a lot more than a little twist of the ankle to keep Grundy out of the action next Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, just they'll have a good look at that one. Those ones, sometimes you can get up, there's no problem. Other times they can be nagging ones. Good on you, Ralph. We'll come back for all the other dramas throughout the course of the day, and there have been some dramas with Paddy Ryder as well, so we'll get to that and have a bit of a chat. In the meantime, let's have a look at the final tree, and Sydney are where they set themselves to be. They did the recruiting in the off-season, of course. The big story with Buddy Franklin going there. The early hoo-ha about the car accidents, the girlfriends, the people on the beach, everything that was going on.
He was looking fat.
He was fat. He was going to ruin the club. He was going to kill their culture. All those sorts of things. Who would have thought?
Well, he's done a good job there, hasn't he?
He's butchered that culture.
He's killed him, hasn't he? And as a result, Sydney Swans are in the grand final and waiting for the winner of Port Adelaide and Hawthorn tomorrow. Boys, I think we'll have a break. When we come back, we've got War Room, we've got Ralphie with all the big news of the day. We'll have a good look at the predictions as well. And again, congratulations to that man. The Australian of the Year, Adam Goodes. Have a look at these Indigenous champions of the Sydney Swans, Jeddah and Buddy Franklin, and then some blokes as well. McGlynn was fantastic, and then one of the great shots, one of the highlights of the year, no doubt, Adam Goodes being carried from the ground at ANZ Stadium, having helped get his side into another grand final. He's saluting the crowd salutes Adam Goodes. 350 games to Adam Goodes, and he was the man who got them going. Just when North were looking dangerous and committed, Adam Goodes hit the pack and hit the scoreboard. The first goal of the night. little bit of a push and shove there from Kieran Jack. Buddy Franklin was the dominant player on the ground by that far. It wasn't funny. Kurt Tippett. What they've been trying to achieve all year suddenly materialised before the Sydney Swans' eyes. Parker was the screamer. Adam Goods was pumped. And at the end of the game, he's into another grand final. And already a football immortal. He gets the chance to make it a 3-time premiership player on Saturday at the MCG. Let's go to the war room now. Vossie's in there with Kingy and Jared Healy.
Thanks, Ed. Fantastic their win there for the Sydney Swans, Jared. You have to be proud of their effort, and particularly their midfield, how hard they work. We talked about that all night, Vossie, just watching time and time again. These midfielders fronting up, down back, fronting up in the forward half, they just don't stop.
Well, they are the ultimate conveyor belt. They get down back and they really do make that defence what it is at the present time, and they deliver it to the forward half and kick goals.
Vossie, let's go to one. Let's go to one and welcome Kieran Jack and welcome him and congratulate him on making a grand final. Kieran, what a fantastic performance, a comprehensive victory tonight.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It was a great result in the end for us. I think it was, as you said before, our midfield, it's something we pride ourselves on, that two-way running, to be able to go up and down the ground. We want to go in and help our defence and then push forward and try and hurt teams. I thought tonight it was a really solid effort from our midfield, which is stretching deeper and deeper.
Well, as you mentioned, you're exceptional at your two-way running, and one guy that leads that is Benny McGlynn. You must be so pleased that he can play in a grand final and get rewarded for last year's disappointment.
Yeah, we're absolutely wrapped for him. I mean, a couple of years ago, as you said, he missed out through injury, and every player wants to get to that final day, and we've got an opportunity now. We just spoke to him before. It's a great result for him, and we've got some fresh talent in there too. Jake Lloyd, Gary Rowan's going to be their first grand final, so very exciting times, mate, I tell you.
You mentioned Gary Rowan, probably his best game for the Swans. He had a nervous first final last week, a couple of average possessions early in the game today, but gee, he finished off full of running and confidence.
Yeah, I mean, mate, Gaz has been fantastic. To come back from a broken leg, I don't think too many players would know what that's like. I mean, Vossi would certainly know. But, to see what he's doing now in the back line, he was probably a forward, but he's gone down back and he just provides some absolute speed in the back half for us. He makes a few errors every now and then, but we keep pumping him up. Some of the stuff he brings, not many players can do. So, I mean, it was probably his best game, I think, for the club tonight, which is in a final, a great effort.
Kieran, can we ask you about your midfield and talk about how you like to play and that want to push into the forward half and how you value those forward half possessions and disposals, because the numbers tonight are stark, and we're just going to show some vision of how they actually do that. You're looking at Parker, Jack, Kennedy, Hanbury, McGlynn, all over 10 possessions in the forward half. There's 72 of your 117 total were forward half possessions. Is it something that you focus on? Is it something you challenge each other to achieve?
Probably not forward half possessions as such. I mean, just two-way running. I mean, it's the key to the modern game now. I think if you want to play midfield, you've got to have an exceptional tank, fitness-wise that is, and you've just got to get up and down the ground. It's just what the game demands, and even more so with an interchange cap. So, we've been able to blood guys like, Jake Lloyd and, Harry Cunningham goes through and plays on Boomer. To go back into defence and help out our defence and then go up the ground and try and hurt teams. I think we can get an advantage from that.
Well, go and have a rest, mate, and good luck in your preparation for next week's grand final. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, mate.
See, they've got a great midfield, haven't they?
They run hard.
They run hard. And who leads the way, do you think? Is it this next man we'll show some vision of in Josh Kennedy, or is it Jack? Is it Hanbury? Who's the general in there?
Well, before we have a look at the vision, I went to their jumper presentation at the start of the year and listened to Kieran give his speech. I've got no doubt he is one of the driving forces. But the way that Joe Kennedy started the game, it was phenomenal. He had 5 clearances in the first 15 minutes. He had so many possessions. He just dominated the game when it was there to be won.
He's a brilliant inside player, and you talk about the balance of midfielders. You need that inside player that can win that ball and be so tight and tough, maintain possession. Their retention of the football by hand was fantastic tonight. 88% they went by hand. So when you're in congestion like that and you can work your way out of congestion and still maintain the football, then you get on the outside and then it's Jack and then you've got Hanbury, Jeddah's running into space. It's very damaging.
Hard not to learn when you hang around Kennedy. But this next guy, Luke Parker, has taken his game to a whole new level. And I think the rise of this guy in such a short period of time is testament to the development program and the culture of the Sydney Swans, Jared.
Yeah, it's testament to his raw courage as well. He came in with a mission to prove himself an AFL footballer, and he's done it so early in the piece. He was a stiff, not to get into the All-Australian side, but I still think he's had so many good games. He's a genuine chance to win the Brownlow medal Monday, but what he's really chasing, Vossi, is a medal next Saturday afternoon, and if he plays well, the Swans are a genuine chance to do that.
Look at that. He's had 17 forward half disposals, 11 scoring involvements. He not only gets high volumes, Vossi, he gets them in dangerous areas.
He does, and you don't have to influence me that much about midfielders that can get back down the ground. They start in defence and they can turn up in the forward half. They don't have to rely on getting 2-3 possessions in one chain. They go from one contest to another contest, and it can be 40 metres apart, and they just run the distance, and all their players are demanded to do that. Their forwards do that. You know, their defenders press up high. Their midfielders go full length, and they just outnumber on every single occasion, Kingy.
69 inside 50s. A lot of those because of the repeat inside 50s due to their pressure. You saw a clip you wanted to show just to highlight their ability to outnumber.
Well, we talk about television football and about looking at players in your screen, and you see this here, and we'll get some pauses as we go, but you pause there. What have we got? 4v3 straight away. He got an outnumber. That's in the forward line of Sydney Swans. The ball comes out, they're under pressure, there's the chasing pressure behind, they cough the football up, and if we pause it again, here you start to see 6v3. All of a sudden now you've got a genuine outnumber and they've got options. The ball comes out, Buddy Franklin holds the ball, just buys a little bit of time. Ball gets transferred to the other side of the field. Stop. There's a 2v1 on the opposite side of the field. So this has all got to do with work rate. Ball spills, goes inside 50, look up. Now all of a sudden it's a 2v1. I mean, this is the amount of contests going from one contest to another contest. Kingy, you talk about the rolling spotlight here. And then the final one, if that wasn't enough, when you get in there, stop there, and you've got a 3v2 at the contest. And that's just all got to do with pure work rate. And that's what they do so very well.
You can learn a lot from the TV.
You can.
I think when you get to a grand final, you get to this stage, sometimes you need a story, you need an emotional attachment for the playing group. It's all good to celebrate the stars and they'll be what they'll be. But Ben McGlynn, for me, is the story. And sometimes these players need a reason to drive themselves to the ultimate glory. And this guy's the man for me. When you see his work rate, you see what he does. He pushes coast to coast. We just let this vision roll here. You can just see him top left, Jared. He just pushes out a screen. Now, we lose him for a moment, and he pushes forward. I just love the way that he just charges onto the ball. His running is constant for me. He's about to come into frame at the bottom of the screen. You can see him there, 21 at the bottom of the screen. Now he's hovering there. He's doing his role defensively. Kangaroos win this ball. He's getting back to help his back six. But if they win it, Vossi, he commits. And that's what I love. He just goes all the way. And you just see him pop up in a really good space and really good spots. Now, he's relying on his teammates. I understand all that. But this guy, to me, is nearly their most important half forward because he provides the damage.
He just runs the lines and he lets everyone do the work inside. And we talked about that handball retention, and there he is. He pops up in screen, and that's pure work rate. And we often talk about talent. Yes, you've got to know your structures. Yes, you've got to know your running patterns. That's all in the teaching. But you still got to have the mindset. You still got to have the attitude that I've got to go to A to B and I've got to do it quickly. And there's a certain work rate that's required. There's a certain demand of me as a player, and he does it, and he leads the way.
I want to bounce some players off you, Jared, and put some war gauges up there and get your thoughts for next week now that we can really set ourselves. Adam Goodes, he's really found his way, I think. He was lost there for about a month or so through the latter part of the year. Kicked, obviously, the 3 goals tonight. He's done that 6 times this year, so it's no fluke for him to spike up and perform. He kicked 4 goals against the Hawks last time, so this is a concern for Hawthorn to match up for this guy.
Well, for them to win, they're going to have all their best players play well, and Adam Goodes has been a superstar of the game. I thought it was his best game for probably 2 months tonight. His chase and tackle was there, as well as kicking 3 goals. Could have kicked 4. He plays an interesting role. He's very much an outside player now, but he still can go back with the flight of the ball, as we saw last week, and kick important goals. A really confident game for him.
What about the erratic line breaker, Gary Rowan? 23 disposals, 10 contested.
Well, Kieran Jack mentioned it, that they're actually tolerating some of the mistakes he makes, but it's the dash that he has. He takes on that front line. When he took on Wells, he absolutely burnt him. And I think that they've just got to keep persisting with that. I'm really glad that he's made his way back in. It's been a big comeback for him to come back from his broken leg.
Well, with no no Johnson there. They needed another body to go down there. He's taken Laidler's spot.
Yeah.
Laidler will be hoping that there's a surprise move at the end, but it's been a big game for him.
11 score involvements as a half-back flanker is a fantastic effort. Tippett's the one for me. Now, his role's changing, Jared. You flagged this earlier in the year that he could go into the ruck late in the piece.
He's very excited by that too.
Oh, yes, he didn't stop talking about it. 8 hit-outs, 16 hit-outs, 8 hit-outs the last 3 weeks coming into this. 12 tonight. He's the one that could change their mix in the middle.
Well, Kurt Tippett, I think, owes the Swans. He's there on a big ticket. He's been okay, but he was really good tonight. But he's been recruited to win a flag for the Sydney Swans, along with Buddy Franklin. Next week's the day.
McGlynn, 19 disposals and a goal. We've spoken enough about this guy, but here's the story. Missing 2012, and obviously he missed 2008 when he was at the Hawks. He's probably on the fringe at that stage, but he's the one.
And he just seems to be well liked amongst the group. And sometimes some players are just the spirit. They've just got that energy bubble about them, and they just lift others around them. And he's it.
What about the losers for the Kangaroos? Drew Petrie, we'd love to have a look at. I thought he had his opportunities early to really stamp himself on this game, and they needed him. They needed his leadership to stand strong, and he'd be disappointed, I think.
Well, no doubt. All their senior players were relatively poor tonight. They cumulatively didn't get the job done. He had an okay night outside of missing some goals, but he'll know in his heart he didn't fire.
What about the little fella, Brent Harvey? He just looked lost tonight, didn't he? Looked like the week had got to him tonight.
Too much tribunal attention.
Yes, too much of that, but he also had attention from Cunningham. So, I mean, he just had no influence on the game, and his second half was very quiet.
I thought it was really interesting today. Cunningham's performance, I think, could be pivotal next week. There's a bloke called Brad Hill or Isaac Smith. They're going to have to find some players to go with them. Well, they found one today because tagging Boomer is one of the hardest jobs in the country.
All in all, a good year for the Kangas, Ed, though. A lot of significant gains made by their playing group, and it's a good launching pad for next year.
Yeah, 2 wins in the finals, Kingy. A great effort by the Kangaroos tonight. They hit the wall, as we see every year in these final series. Microsoft Surface Pro 3 provided us with the war room, and the player of the final series, the Wolf Blast, celebrating success. Well, Lance Franklin will be going to the Black Label Wolf Blast, no doubt about that one, and having a tipple. Maybe not this week, but maybe the week after. He might just crack a few bottles open of Wolf's finest there and celebrate his success. Let's go, Lynchy.
10 days' time, I think he will enjoy a few bottles. 23 disposals, 11 marks, 6 forward 50 entries, 15 score involvements, 5 goals, 2, and 516 metres gained. I came under a little bit of heat last week for my votes.
And so you should have.
And probably so I should have, but you cannot argue against Buddy Franklin. Best on ground by a street.
And Parker and Kennedy, I don't think there was too much worries with those two either.
No,
Kennedy early on
outstanding.
particularly.
Yeah, Kennedy in the first quarter, 12 disposals, 8 contested, had those 10 handballs, 4 clearances, and Parker just across the day continues to get better and is a star on the rise.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and go to the homework with Kingy, see who gets a tick, see who gets a cross. Nick Melcheski, fantastic effort. Looked like he was shot with a hamstring. Played really well tonight. McVeigh's been a superstar. Josh Kennedy we spoke to, just one of the greats. And that man, well, it could be the biggest week of his life coming up.
What's the feeling for this one? You play against Port Adelaide. Do you set up during the week to train for your strengths, or do you set up to attack them in certain areas at training?
I think we're always going over our strengths. I think you want to focus on your own team first, and there's obviously going to be tricks and little games that other particular teams do, and whether they drop a 7th or I don't know, the halfbacks play higher or something like that that you've always got to be prepared for. So I think most of all you worry about your own sort of forward line.
What do you expect from them?
Oh well, the last few weeks especially, that the energy that they bring is one of the major things that they feed off when they get a run on. But I mean, they've got a great midfield that can push forward. You know, you see Gray on the weekend that he kicks 4, Ollie Wines kicks 3, and Wingard kicks 4, and all three play through the guts as well. So I mean, their small brigade was on fire on the weekend, but at the same time, Schultz has kicked his 60 goals this year, and Westhoff can be a handful. So if we can get our majority of our hands on the ball, then it's going to be played in our half and in our forward line, which is what we want.
How fit are they? How hard a running team are they?
I think we saw in the third quarter and the last quarter Saturday night that they do run hard, and they can run sides off their feet in second halves of games. So their halfbacks and wings do spread hard and run forward and can really hurt you. So I think they are right up there with an elite side in terms of the running side of the game.
Yeah, they'll be trying to put some port on their fork tomorrow afternoon as well. That Hawk Fork with Dermot Brereton at 4 o'clock. Make sure you enjoy that one before the game. It's going to be a great build-up tomorrow to the other preliminary final. The second preliminary final, Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. The winner going through to play the Sydney Swans in the grand final of 2014. John Ralph is in the newsroom. John, on preliminary final day, you couldn't get a bigger news story than the one that happened in the federal court today, and already there is massive ramifications.
No, there certainly is, Ed. And already tonight, Stephen Dank has made yet another unwelcome intervention into this saga, the one that he started with his methods in 2012. Now, he was in court today but said little. Tonight, though, he has told the Herald Sun thymosin beta fork was not used at the Essendon Football Club. But again, no evidence, no willingness to get into court himself and actually prove that to anyone to help the players out. Now, of course, Essendon chairman Paul Little and James Hird, the coach, were supremely confident last night that they would blow up this investigation. Instead, the absolute opposite happened, and both of those key players in this saga have their futures very much in question. Here's what both of those players had to say.
The Essendon Football Club is understandably very disappointed at today's federal court decision. Obviously, it's one that we now need to go away, deliberate, work through the findings and then determine whether or not we want to go to an appeal.
Oh, I'm very disappointed for the players, and I think this is about the players, and we're very disappointed that for our players.
Do you want to see an appeal on this?
We'll consider our options of appeal, and we'll look at that very closely.
Now, those legal fees will reach into millions. Already talk of potential payouts there. The other news tonight, Patrick Ryder will leave the Essendon Football Club. And I hear what Vossi says about potentially Essendon fighting that in court. But, boys, what happens if they do fight it and they lose? That is an enormous precedent for the Essendon Football Club. It means that every Essendon player in the next however many years can walk out of their own accord. And so I still think there were a chance to see some sort of negotiated trade, potentially a first-round pick from Port Adelaide Football Club. They are in an invidious position. We've had many, many dark days at the Essendon Football Club since, February 2013. This has been as tough as any of them.
But I suppose, Ralphie, the point is it doesn't matter whether there's a deal done. Everyone knows why he's leaving.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But if they can, I suppose, lessen the damage, if they can have Paddy Ryder leaving and they can keep the rest, and maybe under Mark Thompson or James Hird or whoever, they can shoot up the ladder next year, there's a chance of minimising the damage.
So what happens if, say, he goes to Brisbane and they give him a third-round pick?
Well, there you go. So maybe they should fight that. But again, that precedent is a pretty scary thought.
Well, why would Brisbane, in that circumstances, want to give them a pick?
Yeah,
they can walk to him for nothing. So if he actually activates the full clause, what would Brisbane sit there and say, here's a third-round pick?
Well, they're in no position just to gift a first-round pick. That's
no,
for sure.
absolutely not.
But why would you give anything?
No, well, that's right.
Because they can take him.
Yeah.
You just have to pull the trigger on them. That's the thing.
Mugs are for drinking it. Mugs are for drinking out of, not falling into it.
I know, but I'm just saying it just opens up now.
I know.
And we've seen, Ralphie, the other thing we discussed early on is the players who are no longer at Essendon, and we think of Stuart Cramery at the Western Bulldogs and Angus Monfries at Port Adelaide. The time is still ticking on them, and 2015 is already within 6 months. So luckily, it's a later start to the season, but there's every chance now that they could decide to go and try and cut a deal with the side of themselves and get themselves out of the Essendon drama, leave that aside and clear their names.
No, you're absolutely spot on. And the Cronulla situation was a 6-month ban, and what our experts are telling us that whenever they agree to that ban, 3 months of it could be backdated, but 3 months of it would have to be served. So for those players, they would be thoroughly sick of this. Sick of this. For Stuart Cramery, if he misses the first 6 weeks of the 2015 season, that's not horrific for him. His time is over. He has served his time. But again, what does that mean for James Hird? Well, it might mean that James Hird would be sacked as the Essendon coach, and that payout is a couple of $1 million.
Yeah, well, not if he's sacked, I suppose. I think probably wouldn't be a payout there. Just interesting tonight, just looking online already, Mark Robinson, our commentator here on AFL 360 and the chief football writer at the Herald Sun, is basically writing an editorial, or has written an editorial today, saying that if any player goes, then the entire Essendon board who was there and also James Hird would have to go. Now, we know that Robbo's been accused of being a cheerleader for the Bombers. Certainly he has been in their camp over this whole duration. It's a big switch around there, so it just emphasises again the result that Justice Middleton handed down today has blown Essendon up.
No, you're right. Some extraordinarily conflicting emotions. Imagine if Essendon has to start again, a whole new board of management. Their players, potentially 10, 12, 18 of them suspended for the first half of the season, potentially the entire football department gone. that is a catastrophic blow, not only for the Essendon Football Club, but for an AFL organisation which is trying to do its media deals and is trying to get a fixture up for next season.
All right, well, there's a lot to go through then. There's a lot of money that has been wasted, used, whatever the case is, all there. ASADA, of course, still have to present some evidence, and that's what we're all waiting to see before we go any further. Today was a bad day for the Bombers. Well, let's see what happens as far as the ASADA evidence is concerned. Ralphie, before we go, there's another game tomorrow, of course, and one of the heartbreak stories, there's always one in the final series, is Brad Sewell.
It certainly is. Look, it's been a tough 24 hours for Brad Sewell. Dropped on Thursday night, and the news didn't get much better today. Now, certainly I think we all felt like the need for speed might have pushed him out of this side against Port Adelaide, and maybe he would come in against the hard bodies of Sydney. But Alistair Clarkson today has basically said, look, it's just a match-up thing. We've got enough inside midfielders. Langford has taken his spot. And so I think if Cyril Rioli gets through a grand final for the VFL next on Sunday, I think it's going to be really tough for him to get back in. Here's what Clarko said at Waverley today.
Oh, that's part of it, but we just feel like we're better balanced. You know, we've got a lot of inside mids, you know, particularly with the emergence of Langford, who's played some really good footy for us in the second half of the year, and we just feel like we've got a better balance with Matty Suckling coming into the team.
Now, Adelaide's coaching contenders evaporate by the day. Vossi's not interested, Mark Thompson's not interested, Worsfold is not interested. Stuart Dew has put his hand up today, though. He says that I am interested in speaking to the club. Now, we think that the likes of Brett Ratton would also be interested, but that would be after a potential grand final. Also, Guy McKenna in deep strife. There is speculation in Queensland of a potential get-out clause. We know he's contracted in 2015, but if they didn't have to pay him out for 2015, that might absolutely see his papers stamped. The players have lost confidence in him, and so has the board as well, guys. So very tough situation for a couple of clubs. They've got coaching merry-go-rounds, but no one to fill those vacant positions.
Jeez, would you take the Gold Coast one, Vossi? That's up your neck of the woods.
I'm doing the recruiter right at the moment.
Exactly. Stay with the recruit, pal. You're killing him on the recruit. I was worried I was going to have to look for a coach myself. There you go.
There's a little bit less stress at the recruit, isn't it?
A little bit, that's right.
It is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, you never like a review conducted, especially when it's specifically around your performance. I know we're talking about football departments, but when it's about you, it's never normally a good outcome.
Mark, you've been around footy clubs for a long, long time. I mean, you're at a club that won a premiership and sacked the coach and the president.
Absolutely.
And might have cost you 4 premierships.
That's what we do.
That's what did it, Carlton, was when you used to win. And win premierships monotonously, unfortunately. But that situation of such a public announcement that you're going to investigate, you can do a review without having to tell the world, surely, can't you?
Obviously not. It's what they do nowadays. Everyone's under review. This is a really tough business, and I played for 14 years, had 7 coaches. Obviously they're disposable. That's what happens. It's hard to get rid of 40 players.
It is. All right, let's get back to the game that we've just saw. The Kangaroos, you've got to give them a tick for this year. 2 wins in the final series. Tonight they came up against an awesome opposition who put them to the sword. Let's go to Brad Johnson in the Kangaroos room, and he's with Nick Del Santo.
Nick, the joys 1 week, and I was in the rooms last week when you sang the song, but then a week later, obviously playing a quality side in the Sydney Swans. But you must be proud as well in some ways to get this far this year as a club.
Yeah, it's a little bit mixed emotions. We've had a good run the last couple of weeks and really enjoyed the experience of finals, and just came up against a team tonight that were just sensational. We knew they were obviously quality, and then travelling up here we thought they'd be a little bit better at home, and I just thought they played fantastic footy, and there wasn't a lot we could do about it. I didn't think we played overly poor, but they just made us pay for every turnover, and that's why they're a good team.
That seems what it was. They seemed to, when they turned it over, it's the speed of their ball movement compared to them just slowing you up when you actually did create a turnover yourselves.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it felt. It probably put a little bit more pressure on us as well when we had the ball, because we knew if it was a turnover that it's probably going to be 6 points down the other end, and Tippett, Buddy, just felt like they were marking everything, and Reid took a couple along the way as well. So we were up against it. I thought our guys were gallant. They tried their hardest and just wasn't good enough.
What about Brad? Has he spoken to the playing group post-game?
Yeah, he has. He's had a couple of chats to us. He spoke really well. Just proud of our efforts this year. It's always a tough year. Whether you win the premiership or you come last, it's always a gruelling and mentally challenging game, and it feels like that at the moment. It's sort of hard to take some positives out of it, but it's been a really good year and something hopefully we can build on, and that was probably Brad's message.
Well, Dal, thanks very much for your time. I know it is tough after losing a prelim final, but thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jono.
Got our Nicky Dell there with Jono in the Kangaroos rooms, and congratulations, the Kangaroos have been so open to the media right throughout the season, particularly in the final series, and Brad Scott even speaking to us before the game. fantastic effort by the Kangaroos. Don't forget, tomorrow's going to be a ripper from 4 o'clock. We're going to be ready to go here live and uninterrupted in high definition all throughout the day. The War Room in action from 4 o'clock for the preliminary final between Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. And then at 8 o'clock, Dermot Brereton will join me for a big week in footy. We're on the special time slot of Saturday night. Will be Saturday night after the grand final, crossing back to the rooms in the MCG for all the action right after the game. So make sure you join us then. And don't forget, at the special time of Tuesday at 9:30, it's open mic, and Mike Sheehan sits down with one of my all-time favourite players. He played in 6 grand finals without getting a win. He got a draw in 77. I speak of the great Rene Kink.
It's your passion for the game. I mean, I have the feel that you were never totally absorbed in the game, that you could take it or leave it. Is that fair?
That's very true. At times, I've mentioned, I've been out there and I've kicked a number of goals, 3, 4, 5 goals up to three-quarter time, and I look at the scoreboard and say, well, we're 7 up. I don't think we'll get beaten. We're pretty right. That'll do for me. I'm shutting shop.
So you didn't care enough?
No, it's not care. I cared. The issue was never cared. It wasn't important to me.
But aren't you a bit embarrassed about that?
No.
With a man of your talent?
No, not in the slightest. I never played 200 games because that wasn't important to me.
Brownlow night on Fox Footy. Starting at 6:30, we walk the red carpet. Then, live from Crown, the Brownlow from every angle with AFL 360.
Well, good evening and welcome inside the Palladium Ballroom.
And the big one, the 2014 Brownlow Medal Count Live.
I declare the winner, Gary Ablett, Gold Coast Suns.
Brownlow night, Monday on Fox Footy.
Yeah, it's going to be a magnificent Brownlow medal. I'm being tormented by those 3 blokes. It's unbelievable.
Rocker was a goal.
Ed's just recited the last 10 Collingwood grand finals that they've lost, and he's just a bit dirty that Rocker's point was a goal.
Jeez. Let's go to Kingy. How are you, Kingy? How's things, mate? Don't you mention 77, all right?
Well, I might touch on something a little bit later you might not be too happy with either, but we'll get there. Let's start with the predictions. It's been preliminary final week. Hasn't been Brad Johnson's finest time of year, but today he is on fire. He went for lukewarm 30 possessions and 2 goals. Well, he didn't get the 30 possessions, but 3 goals gives you a big tick, my friend. Well done. You are back.
You're very kind, Kingy. Thanks, mate. It's worth hanging around for, obviously, to get a big tick off you.
Yeah, well, not that kind. Let's move on to Lynchy.
Ooh.
And look, it's about small margins when you get to this stage of the year. And Lynchy went for Jack out of the box to kick 3 goals, and it's just. It was cryptic, but yeah. I like the play on words, but just a shocking selection. 1 goal, Lynchy not to be. Vossi went for Kennedy, hard to swallow, and form hard to swallow. Not sure about that. 30 possessions he was locating, 10% down. Bad luck, Vossi. 27 he got. 8 times this year he's got 30 plus, so we thought it was a pretty soft selection.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. So 1 vote he got. Was that right, Lynchy?
Oh, I had him in the vote, so I reckon you're a little stiff.
The fact that you're in Lynchy's votes is neither here nor there. We've seen over the last couple of weeks.
Name's Jack.
Sellers went for Buddy to kick a 6-pack. Unlucky Sellers.
Stiff Sellers.
5 goals, 2's just not quite there.
Had 14 score involvements.
Score involvements is not part of the 6-pack, is it? I didn't see that written there. But
Sellers hasn't seen a 6-pack for some time.
I haven't. No, I'm looking forward to one.
Little drive-by. I went for Goldfingers to be the man, to be the dominant force today, Jared. Not to be. No,
just to tell you.
He got smashed. I'm in a form trough myself, actually. Now, I don't know what yours was, Jared. Let's be honest. Healy went with How. Now, I've got no idea what that is.
But a lot of requests for another song.
A lot of requests for another tune. If you go with a tune again, we might give you a cross. But you went with Goodsy to kick 3 goals, and he did. He kicked 3-1. Well done. Now, Ed went for Buddy and Tippett to cash in. He wanted to attach himself to the billionaires, which has probably been, when you look at it, the best part of Ed's last 20 years. He's attaching himself to billionaires everywhere.
Especially Bondi ones, mate. Don't worry about that.
We've had to give you a tick. 12 goals between the billionaires tonight. Well done.
Good on you, mate. Well done, Kingy. Well done to everybody. It's been a great fun night. And to the Sydney Swans supporters, enjoy this week. It's one of the great weeks you can be involved in. Your team's in the grand final. And good luck to Port Adelaide and Hawthorn tomorrow. And one of you will go through to play the Sydney Swans in the 2014 AFL Toyota Grand Final. Sit back and relax it again, Swannies. Here comes the preliminary final. We'll catch you tomorrow from 4 o'clock.